Hello, and welcome. Welcome to the Fit Over 40 Challenge Show, the number one health and fitness show for those of us in the club. Yes, that's right, the 40 and Over Club. My name is Coach Dave. I am going to be your coach and your host today, and I'm super excited to bring you another episode of this show. And today, I've titled it, How to Eat for Best Results. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into today's episode. So here we go. So, now, make no mistake, the foods that you eat make a huge impact on your fat loss results. I'm sure you've heard people tell you or hear that, nutrition is 90% or 95% or 99%, whatever you want to say. But it's not just about what you are eating. It's also about how much and how frequently you eat. You see, all of these factors make the topic of how to eat for best results a hot topic. It's definitely one of the hottest ones with my clients. So let's go ahead and dive into some of the most popular eating strategies that's kind of out there right now. So if you do a quick online search, or if you kind of, I'm in that sphere where I always seem it pops up everywhere I'm on Facebook or Instagram or whatever. But if you did a search, you'd find that right now there's probably two popular eat for fat loss strategies. One of them is intermittent fasting, and the other one is 6 small meals, or small but frequent meals, however you want to put it. So those are the two that I think that come up the most, that most people out here are talking about. And so I guess the question is now, which strategy works best? Okay. And maybe more importantly, which strategy would work best for you? Because let's get down to it here. This is about you, and so I want to make sure that we're talking about you here. So let's go ahead and find out what's going to be best for you. So let's break this up. Let's start with intermittent fasting. Okay. Now, if you have no clue what I'm talking about, hopefully this will give you a little bit better understanding. This strategy, this eating strategy, essentially cycles between periods of eating and periods of fasting. Okay, there's a lot of different stuff here, but that's essentially the gist of it. The content of your meals, though, during these eating periods is not a factor. Okay, now some cycle between eating and fasting each day, creating a small window for eating and fasting for probably like 16 hours, while others might cycle eating and fasting across several days, okay, taking as much as 48 hours at a time to fast. So there's a little bit of play there in terms of what people do in terms of intermittent fasting. I don't think there's a hard rule. Typically what I do is the first cycle is where I'll go ahead and will fast for about anywhere, probably 12 to 16 hours really is what kind of I'm doing. So let's look at some of the pros, though, to intermittent fasting. So humans have been doing this fasting for thousands of years. I mean, this is nothing new. Our bodies are well equipped to handle periods of fasting. That's really what body fat is for. It's for those periods of times when you're not getting calories, and it has that fuel to be off of. So the research shows that fasting produces benefits, specifically for like disease prevention and metabolic health and weight loss and even life extension. Some find it's less work to fast rather than plan for small meals. I mean, I kind of almost agree with that. In some sense, I mean, it's easier to know, okay, this is the only time I'm eating, this is all I have to worry about. I'm planning for these specific hours. And so during periods when you get to eat, you eat whatever you want. I mean, I say that a little bit. I mean, not whatever, but you don't have to necessarily worry as much. I guess that's the point here. So now that's the pros. The cons is abstaining from nourishment for long periods of time can be challenging. Okay, especially when food is all around you. And even with your workouts, sometimes that can be hard to do, especially if you're doing like a high intensity workout. Also, socially, it can be awkward to skip meals while your friends and family are eating together. And some find themselves overeating during eating cycles, and they find the ongoing absence of food to actually aggravate different food obsessions and to produce unbalanced focus on the food. So it can kind of throw people off too, because um, it's kind of always on their mind. It's obsession. So those are some of the cons. So you've got the pros and you've got the cons of intermittent fasting. Let's look at the 6 small meals, or the smaller but frequent meals that you might have heard of, which is the other one. So now this strategy, this eating strategy of breaking the traditional 3, say, square meals into 6 smaller meals that are spaced apart, typically about 2 to 3 hours apart. That's what they say, is you should go about every 2 to 3 hours of eating, has been used by bodybuilders and fitness competitors for years. I remember when I first got into the industry, into personal training, a guy, he was training for a competition, and man, the guy, all he ate was chicken and brown rice. He ate it every 2 hours. Pretty much every 2 hours. But yeah, that's what he did. And he drank a ton of water. But okay, sorry, I digress. But the content and the size of each meal is really the important factor of this eating plan. Okay. Now, meals earlier in the day would contain, in this strategy, contain lean protein, basically fiber-filled veggies, and a small portion of complex carbs. While meals later in the day are typically smaller and they don't contain as much complex carbs. Okay, so all meals are typically low in fat. And again, there's some, I'm sure probably some people would be like, well, that's not what I do, and but that's what I'm saying is that the typical 6 small meals is that. Okay, so let's look at the pros and the cons now. The pros of this: you never feel hungry. By fueling every 2 to 3 hours, you never get the feeling of deprivation, that typically would come with fasting. Also, here's something important to think about: is energy levels are steady and typically high due to the constant supply of wholesome calories. That's the thing, is that, a lot of times you have to realize that, you get that low blood sugar or whatever, if you're not eating and stuff like that, you get that low energy. So energy, energy is important there. Plus, fat loss results are steady. And what I mean by that is when done with an exercise plan, muscle is maintained because you're feeding the body, okay, to keep that lean mass. So now looking at the cons of this type of strategy is you have to plan ahead. And in today's society, in just instant kind of, I guess, gratification or just impulse, people, don't do planning. And listen, you have to do this every single day if you're going to do this particular approach. So you got to get used to carrying around a small cooler filled with, containers of chicken and broccoli and brown rice and sweet potatoes. That's, again, if you want to do this, that's hard. And especially when I used to recommend this to a lot of my clients, they're like, dude, I'm in a meeting. I can't just whip out my broccoli, my and chicken and brown rice. I don't go. I go 6 hours without eating. But the point here is that each meal is small, so it requires, restraint is required. Okay, unless of course you're including the occasional cheat meal or cheat day. There's no really room in this particular diet or approach for empty calories or comfort foods. So when we look at the intermittent fasting, like I said, almost anything goes in that side of it. This 6 smaller meals, you're pretty strict. You got to stick to those. So that's the cons there and the pros and cons there. So let's go ahead and just talk about the conclusion. Let's kind of wrap it all up and see here. The facts are there's proof that both of these eat for fat loss strategies work. I mean, I'm going to be honest with you. Like I said, I'm doing the intermittent fasting. I did the 6 small meals. They both work. They really do. And, you probably have seen people or heard people, talk about it on Facebook, Instagram, who have subscribed to each of these methods and have gone from, flabby to lean and really looking fit and made a transformation. I mean, both methods irrefutably work. It's hands down. So there should be no argument there. And then I guess if you're saying, well, if they both work, but why? Maybe one is your question is why? And how can both methods that utilize opposing strategies both produce fat loss results? And then maybe another question is which one is better? Let's take a second. Let's dive into that. And let's look a little deeper. What makes these eating strategies work? And then maybe that is what will work for you. Remember, I want to go back to that. It's all about you. What will work and what's best for you. So let's look at meal timing. So when you eat is a factor with both of these eating plans. Okay, so that's what I'm saying. Meal timing is when you eat is a factor. Okay, this means that subscribers to both plans are required to wait until the appointed time to eat. So mindless snacking or grabbing a muffin just because it's there is totally out of the question. You can't, if you're going to adhere to these, that's out of the question. So what happens is this reduces overall calories, which is key to weight loss. And that explains partially why both plans produce results. Okay? It's that mindless snacking that you're getting out of that extra calories, calorie restriction. Let's look at the second one, meal content. The 6 small meals plan focuses on the content of each of your small meals in great detail. Okay? Your meals contain lean proteins, fiber-filled veggies, and limited complex carbs. These detailed this detailed control of calories and the content is largely why the plan is a sure bet for fat loss and not just weight loss. Okay, it's the basic calorie content because you're planning those meals. So, intermittent fasting does not consider the content of your meals during the eating periods. That's what I want you to make clear here. So when you're deciding here, that's one thing that does differentiate them. So meal size, let's look at the third piece to this. The 6 meal plan also focuses on the exact size of your meals, okay, which makes sense since you're eating 6 times each day and excess calories would quickly add up. I mean, there's no, that's not rocket science, calories in, calories out, weight loss, weight gain. So typically this is done by weight. So as you pack your meals for the day, you'll be using a food scale to ensure that you have the exact right amount of lean protein and complex carbs. So there is some, obviously additional prep work with the 6 small meals when it comes to size. And so, the other thing is that typically you don't take into account veggies aren't often weighed; they're measured rather than weighed. Okay, so that's one thing that you'll see a lot of people with 6 small meals. They'll use a lot of vegetables will be in there. Intermittent fasting, however, does not consider the size of your meals during the eating periods. All right. Again, you can. That's not saying you can't, but typically most people that follow to intermittent fasting, they don't consider the content or the size of your meals during those eating periods. So let's get back to it. Let's get back to the question that we started at the beginning. So what's the best eating strategy for fast results for me or you? And as I've discussed already, both of the eating strategies above are capable of producing results. This is due to the fact that both plans result in a lower caloric intake. Let me repeat that. The lower caloric intake is why you see results with these two different types of plans. So when it's all said and done, weight loss comes from caloric balance. Okay, that's the key, caloric balance. Now remember, the junk food diet, where the professor lost weight eating restricted calories of only vending machine food. I don't know if you remember that was in the news. I don't remember when it was, um, but see, here's the deal: as long as you're taking in fewer calories that you were burning, you will end up losing weight. So if you put a restriction on your caloric intake, regardless of what it is, you will lose weight. Now, I'm not saying that's healthy, but you will. So let's wrap this up. While both of these strategies above end up curbing your calories, only the 6 meals plan encourages wholesome calories that are ideal for burning fat and building muscle, which is why this is the plan most used by bodybuilders and fitness competitors. Okay? So when it comes down to your choosing your own eating strategy, it's important to determine what will work best for your lifestyle. And let me repeat that. What will work best for your lifestyle? Okay? If carrying a cooler with you and making time to stop every 3 hours to eat a meal is simply not something you can see yourself doing, then maybe intermittent fasting may produce better results for you. The key is to figure out a plan. And let's reiterate that again. To figure out a plan for restricting calories and that would realistically be where you would be motivated to stick with. Okay, that's the other piece of this. If you're not motivated to do this, more than likely it isn't going to work for you. So if you're motivated to do it, then that's going to help you. All right. And so the more wholesome the content of those restricted calories, the better and quicker for your results come. So again, that's why when I talk about intermittent fasting, I also talk about types of food that's being eaten. So that's kind of it, and again, what's right for you, I don't know. But if you do need help and you want some more guidance, and to figure out, what's the best plan for you, then I'm here to help you. You can reach out to me, email me, call me, set up a time, and I'll be more than happy to help you. I'm going to be releasing a course on nutrition. It's going to be a 2-part course, a 16-week program. So if you're interested in that, you can go to fitover40challenge.com/course, and you can get some more information, get on the list, and when it's ready to go, I'll email you. But it's all going to be about, essentially how to eat for best results and get that nutrition down, because that's a real big part of this whole thing. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up, and I'm going to bring it to a close. And again, I hope you just make it a great day. And if you need anything, don't hesitate to reach out to me. And this is Coach Dave signing off.